In this tutorial in DaVinci Resolve, we're going to show you how to get started with the keyframe editor. Sometimes we think all we need is the inspector to set, delete, and change keyframes, and that's true to a point. Let me show you. We have an example of a graphic on the screen of a baseball. It's a still image. If I click the inspector, I can set some parameters. Let's take the position. Let's take the position of it, leave it in the center of the screen. I'm going to set a keyframe by clicking a diamond where the playhead is, and that will set my first keyframe. Then let's move in a little bit. We'll move to the right, and now we'll change the position. We'll move it slightly down and a little bit to the left. That sets a keyframe there. Now you notice when I set one or more keyframes, I have a little arrow pointing left or right. This indicates that I have at least one keyframe prior to this one. Let's move over farther. And now we'll change the position again. We'll move it a little bit more to the left, partway off the screen, and then we'll move it up. That sets a third keyframe. If I go back by clicking on the arrow, I'm at my second keyframe. Now I have two arrows. One says you have a keyframe or more to the left and one or more to the right. The easy way to move between keyframes, left and right, is left bracket, moving left, right bracket, moving right. I encourage you to use those. So now we have them and we can change them. We can go to any keyframe that we have. Let's take the rightmost one. So all we have is a left arrow. And let's say we want to change the position from this one to another one. Let's take the Y value and make it even higher. Move it off the screen so you can barely see it. So you can move from keyframe to keyframe using the arrows or the left and right bracket keys and change the values. But that's a bit cumbersome because I don't see the whole picture. That's why the keyframe editor is so valuable. Let me show you 3 ways to launch the keyframe editor and then some ideas about how to use its basic functions. First of all, in order to use the keyframe editor, you need to click on the clip that you want to use, and the clip must have at least one keyframe. If it doesn't have any keyframes, the editor has nothing to work with. It can't open. 3 ways to open it. Number 1 is click on the clip menu at the top, and then choose the Show Keyframe Editor. And you'll see this screen pop up. Let's give ourselves a bit more room here. I see it's under the Transform category, and it tells me that I have keyframes represented by the diamond. We can also click on Clip and Show Keyframe Editor. In this case, it disables it. The other way to do that I encourage is use the Control and Shift keys down together and press the C key, and you can open it and close it as much as you want. You can also open it or view it by clicking on the black and white diamond in the lower right corner of the element on the timeline. That will open it and that will close it. Now you also have another feature I'd like to look at in relationship to this screen. If I click on this and open it, I also have more controls. It simply says I have a transform keyframe, one or more. I have one here and one here. But I want to know more about that, so I click on the little right arrow and it tells me the actual ones I'm looking at are position keyframes. That's important, especially when you have multiple keyframes. Another thing that I can do is move from keyframe to keyframe, edit or delete. Let's assume I want to change this one here. I'll click on this. When it turns red, I know it's active, and I can actually move the keyframe to a different position on the timeline. Then if I want to change the value, I can change the value. I can delete it. I can do anything I want. If I press the delete key on the keyboard while it's red, that will delete the keyframe. And so you can make these modifications in the timeline actually to see what's going on. Let's assume I can still use my left and right brackets, and I can still move my timeline anywhere I want and add more keyframes by using my controls in the inspector. Let's assume I want to take this position at the last and now it's in the upper left. Let me take the X position and move it to the upper right and lower it a little bit, and I've added still another keyframe. So we'll play this and we'll see where the ball goes. Moves to the left, then it moves to the top, then it moves to the right. And you notice the closer together the keyframes are, the more fast is the apparent action. And you can change that by simply moving the keyframes closer or farther apart and changing other features. Another nice thing about this is if you have multiple elements that are keyframed at the same time, this is very important because it's hard to see this in the inspector. Let me give you an example. I'm going to do Control-Shift-C and close that out. We'll go to another example I have on the screen. And this is where we've used more than one element. Here we have several elements. We have position, rotation, and location. So if I click on this clip of the baseball and do Control-Shift-C to open up, I see I have transform, and it looks like all I have is 3 keyframes. But I need to use this control below it. I'll click on that. We'll slide down to see I have a zoom X, I have a zoom Y, I have a position, and I have a rotation. So I actually have 4 different values that are keyframed to accomplish this. And again, we can use left bracket, right bracket when we click on the clip to move between the keyframes, make any changes. We can go anywhere in the timeline we want and add some other keyframes using the inspector to control them. It's very important to use this tool in addition to the tool that we have in the inspector to be able to manage your keyframes. We'll show you more in the future about how to specifically modify certain features of your elements using the keyframe editor in DaVinci Resolve.